are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
The Oklahoma Sooners have two pieces on their injury report that have now come up as possibly available. They're showing probable on the injury report. That's really big news for the Oklahoma Sooners this week as we take on the Missouri Tigers. Welcome in, everybody, as we sit here and talk about another week of Oklahoma football. It's very, very strange when we look at this season and recognize everything that's gone into it. First, before we get into this injury report and everything that we have to break down about it, and before we get too far into talking about Missouri, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We want to keep on growing here with you guys. We want to keep on making this show a show that we can talk with you guys about the Oklahoma Sooners, not just talking at you. But let's get into it, because there's so much when we talk about this season. I mean, this season has been a disappointing one, to say the least. This season has had an offense that has struggled all season long, an offense that as a whole has only put up less than 1,700, just less than 1,700 total passing yards. It's an offense that still has barely, hasn't even reached 1,500 rushing yards as a whole, not just for one single player, but as a whole, and an offense that only had one single game, this past game against Maine, that we had an offensive rusher, a running back, that had rushed for more than 100 yards. This past game against Maine was also the only game that we had a single receiver, over 100 yards. So it's been a struggling season so far, very much so. And obviously the big part of this offense struggling, we know the play calling seems to have been quite a bit of the issue. And then we look at the injury report, and each week just getting longer and longer. First, starting off with our top three wide receivers out for the season. For the most part, we for sure had two guys that seemed like they were going to be out, and then we had three, and then we had five. So we had five top wide receivers out, and of course that makes it very difficult for a quarterback, any quarterback, to be able to complete a pass and to complete a good game, to go out there and perform well. And so we look at that, and obviously that's a big part of our struggles. But this week we've got a couple of key receivers possibly able to play. And now this is us as Sooner fans getting our hopes up very high, and I really hope that we don't get them too high, because honestly, we've seen a lot of players, specifically Deion Burks being one of them, that have shown up on that probable to play and doesn't end up playing. Nick Anderson has also gotten himself into the situation where it's probable that he ends up playing. I don't know why that's hard for me to say that word today, but this week feels like we need it. This week feels like we need two key wide receivers to go out there, because for one, this is the most winnable game left on our schedule. And that's not to say that Missouri is going to be easy. It's not what I'm saying at all. I just think that when you compare Missouri, Alabama, and LSU, this is the most winnable game, and we really need to win one game to make it to a bowl game. Oklahoma has the second longest streak for most seasons, consecutive seasons, making it to bowl eligibility. That's 25 years of straight, just bowl eligibility. That's dating all the way back to John Blake days, obviously. And that's something that us as Oklahoma fans, even though that bowl eligibility really doesn't mean a whole lot to us, we strive for more than that. We strive for championships. We strive for putting players into the, butt kiss players and Heisman players, Biletnikoff players. We strive for all of those awards and for those big time rewards. But this season, as fast as it went downhill, we will take just a bowl eligibility at this point. We'll take it. And it's not settling for that. We would love to end this season with 8 wins. If we could find a way to beat Alabama, Missouri, and LSU, by all means, we'll take that even more. 8 wins would feel like a win, and we said that at the beginning of the season. My expectation, 8 wins. What I think we were capable of was 10 wins. And obviously, I don't think anybody thought that the play calling and the injury bug would hit us as hard as it did here this past season. But let's talk about Farooq, who has been out since Temple, and Deion Burks, who's been out since Tennessee. These are two guys that really have not played a whole lot. And Deion Burks, the sad thing is, Deion Burks is the second most favorite receiver in terms of receptions in all of our wide receivers that are listed, really just receivers in general, including the tight ends and running backs. And Deion Burks has the fourth most receiving yards this season alone among all receivers, among all players who have caught a pass in any fashion this season. Deion Burks is number 4 on that list in receiving yards with 201, only 8 behind Brennan Thompson, who has really been in every single game and has started every single game because of the injuries. So, this is something that is depressing, but to know that it's a possibility that he comes back in this game, and honestly, I think we could find a way to win this Missouri game. I'll talk more about that before we get to that game. But I think that's a possibility that we win this game without Deion Burks, without Jalil Farooq. I think it's a possibility that we could win against Missouri because I know that this Oklahoma defense is strong enough, and I know that with Jackson Arnold in there at quarterback, we've got a quarterback that can make good decisions, has found some confidence. We've got Javonte Barnes, who just had a career day. I know it was against Maine, but that's still a confidence booster. And a young offensive line who seemed to find something working with freshmen in there the entire game. And at one point in the game, we had 11 freshmen playing on offense. At one point in the game, we were going to put Casey Thompson in to take some knees before Maine just kept on squeezing it down there and doing anything they could to try to get one more score, which they could not do. This is coming off of a Maine game that, yes, we understand it's Maine. We understand that we should have blown them out. Guess what? We basically did. Now, the defense started off very slow, and that was something that I think they were upset with. I know Brent Venables was upset with. But this is a Maine team that we did handle very well, and we did exactly what we should have done, and probably even more than we should have done with as bad as we've looked all season long. So with Deion Burks and Farooq, which also bringing up Farooq, he has the highest average of any of our receivers this season as well, with a 47-yard average, with just one catch against Temple that went really big and then broke his foot, went through, I believe, a surgery, and is now able to bounce back before the season's even over. This is huge news. If we were able to bring these guys in, specifically, I think Jalil Farooq is one guy that we could really benefit off of. Deion Burks is just a weapon all over the place, but we know that we've got a guy like Jacob Jordans who's able to kind of step in and fill into that role. Now, of course, that's been sniffed out, and people are going to be much more cautious, specifically Missouri. But if we could bring both of these guys out there on the field against Missouri, the reason why this becomes so much more empirical for Oklahoma to have that veteran mindset, that veteran presence out on the field with these two wide receivers is that now you can spread that field out. And that is how teams have beat Missouri this season. Alabama did it. Vandy came very close to doing it with a spread offense, with spreading that out a lot. And on top of that, another thing that they like to do is they like to just stick five in the box and then kind of play a lot of man coverage and maybe having one man play zone. What that does is it opens up, as long as you can get Javonte Barnes or really any of our running backs into some space, it leaves a possibility of one-on-one. It also leaves a possibility of nobody covering Jackson Arnold when he's loose and able to use his legs, and we know that he's capable of doing that. So bringing these wide receivers, it doesn't just bring a presence of having a wide receiver on the field that is able to catch a ball and be able to turn that into something. It's not just an extra attacker out on the field. What this does is it opens up so much more, because now this Missouri offense is going to be spread out and watching more than just Jacob Jordan. It's going to be watching more than just Javonte Barnes, more than just Brennan Thompson, if he's the guy, or Jacques Petaway, which we haven't seen a whole lot of, or J.J. Hester, we saw quite a bit of last week. So there's other weapons that they're not going to have to zone in on one guy that it seems like that's the guy to cover in this package, in this play. Instead, they're going to be forced to look across the entire field and watch every single player with 2 extra veteran players out on that field that we very much need here against Missouri, who it's going to be a tough game. All right, it is. It's going to be a tough game. Missouri is a better team than I think I was ever willing to give them credit for, but at the same time, I think they're just about as good as what I was saying they're probably going to be. And so it's a Missouri team that I think we have a very high possibility to win. It's actually turned in our favor, where we were 3-point underdogs, now 3-point favorites going on the road to Columbia. This is going to be a really big game. We've got a lot more to talk about when it comes to this game against Missouri and the implications that it could have for Oklahoma if we win or if we lose. But we're going to get into much more later on this week. Make sure to tune in on Saturday morning at, let's see, what did we say that was? That's going to be at 9 a.m. 9:30 a.m. So make sure to tune in live here. We're going to talk about that for our pregame show. Hey Sooner fans, did you enjoy this video? Well, go ahead and hit that like button and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. What are you doing if you've made it this far and haven't already? You should be able to find that subscribe button over here. And then if you want to see full episodes, we've got those up here and clips right down here. So go check that out. But we thank you all so much for all the love, all the support. We'll catch you next time. Boomer.